It seems small. It seems non-important. It seems as if this is trivial, but it's not. We have a group of white men with all histories of being racist. So when people are upset that Jack White called out Rogan, Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson, and also Guy Fieri for hanging around Donald Trump at the UFC or praising him or walking up to him, smiling, having a conversation with him, he absolutely has every ground and right to. Absolutely. Because being racist and supporting racists ain't too much of a difference. Consider this. We all know Mel Gibson's long history with being anti-Semitic.
Can you say anti-Semitic things and not be anti-Semitic? Can you say intolerant things and not be an intolerant person?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
But don't forget about this rant he had with his ex-girlfriend and baby mother.
But you know, rose garden, you understand that? Because I'm capable of it.
That is why Oksana Grigorieva, I understand, recorded these conversations, because she feared for her life. And in one of those conversations, not only did Mel Gibson admit that he did hit her, and the reason that he hit her was because she effing deserved it, he also goes on to describe that she could be raped by a pack of black men. Of course, he used the N-word, and he goes on to say other vile and very disturbing things about other races, including Latinos too, by referring to a worker of his and Oksana as being a wetback.
We see where the problem is when you see Donald Trump, who has a history of being racist, completely racist, shows up hugging and talking in intimate space with Mel Gibson. We are all reminded about who you are. And absolutely, people have the right to change, and people do change. But you are absolutely marked by the company you keep. And this is from 4 or 5 days ago. This is not from 4 or 5 years ago. He's standing next to Donald Trump, who is undoubtedly one of America's most racist president. And that's a lot, because the first few had slaves. Let's not pretend what's happening here. Now, Mark Wahlberg. All y'all love Mark Wahlberg. He's your favorite bad guy or big guy in Hollywood. But look at this Mark Wahlberg.
I feel like most of us don't know the actual details of what he did, so let's talk about that first. At around 9 p.m. on April 8th, 1988, in front of this liquor store in Dorchester, Massachusetts, a Vietnamese man by the name of Tan Lam was exiting his vehicle carrying 2 cases of beer. At the same time, Mark Wahlberg was walking down the street carrying a 2 to 3 inch thick, 5 foot long stick, sees Tan Lam, calls him a Vietnam and then hits him over the head with a stick in an attempt to steal his beer. Tan Lam falls to the ground unconscious and has to be taken to the hospital. Now, mind you, this was just barely 2 years after he was served a civil rights injunction, because Mark Wahlberg and a couple of his white friends decided that they were going to chase a group of black students one day, throwing rocks at them, calling them the N-word.
Yeah, hit a man in the head with a stick because of his race, and you wanted what he had. Tell me that's not a level of privilege that should be remembered, especially when we see you sneaking up behind Donald Trump at this UFC 290 event and whispering in his ear and holding his hand intimately. Like I said, you absolutely have the right to change. But this was not 4 or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. This was 4 or 5 days ago. We see Mark Wahlberg standing with a racist president. We see it.
Joe Rogan is now apologizing after videos resurfaced of him using the N-word multiple times on his podcast, Patriot Takes, which put the video together as an organization that aims to expose extremism on the far right. The video is an edited compilation of different podcast episodes, and we have to warn you, this is very disturbing to hear.
Like, you know, the thing.
Yeah. Saying the word
You've already said is just like
saying
she's calling you a like this boy that he's a and starts calling them word. There should be a word like
that. How many times did this man say it? And you know what Spotify said? Spotify, who makes its money off musicians, especially black musicians, giving them pennies while they paid this guy so much more. What did he have to say? Spotify said, oh no, we're going to ask him to take down those episodes, but we're not going to lose that Joe Rogan money. That's right. This is the world we live in, where you can be this racist, and still be considered top president, most popular actor, director, or a sports podcaster. But here's what's really at play here, and people are missing this. This conversation is not being had. Donald Trump is not getting the free media coverage he got in 2016. His rallies are not being covered by the main media outlets like they were in 2016. So we know, I see what's happening here. A weak demographic, white young men, and not just any white young men, those who are into sports, UFC, boxing, all of this is Donald Trump's new method to get free advertisement. Lounging around with Dana White and Joe Rogan, Mark Wahlberg, Mel Gibson is going to be his new play. Donald Trump's going to be popping up at all types of mixed martial arts and boxing events and on these podcasts because it's the new free media and a way that he can exploit and tap into this generation or these people who has this unsolved anger who think they're being replaced by everybody that's not a white man. This is a political ploy. Don't be fooled. This was not just happenstance. This is Donald Trump's strategy for 2024. He will be using MMA, UFC, and all of the other combat sports to reach this generation who's already angry and uptight because they're being replaced by the others. Be ye not fooled. This is dangerous.